Kia ora. Mr. Speaker.
I call the Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr. Speaker, to those few people that are watching or listening in, they may think they have entered an alternative universe. Here on a Thursday afternoon in Parliament, and we're having a debate where we all kind of agree with each other and on a cross-party piece of work, and I just want to say that I fully endorse and support the cross-party nature of Globe New Zealand and certainly the introduction of this vivid report on climate change. But yeah, there must be the odd person out there that's kind of checking the dial on their radio and wondering what's going on. Grant Robertson, you'll be thrilled to know that I am the last speaker in this debate and Parliament does get to rise straight after. And if you want to seek leave so I can do an extra hour or something, feel free. I'm sure I could, I could channel Hekia Parata as her last day as a minister and get a bit more in. I joke, but not on the subject of climate change, actually. As I say, I like that we've got a cross-party piece of work. I admire and respect the work that Vivid has done. As a consequence of that, I think that even as the Minister and as a government, it can help feed into the work that we are doing. And then I certainly acknowledge it as a piece of work that is owned by Parliament and is theirs and is owned by Vivid. But you can't blame me for wanting to read it and take some bits out of it and think about how that kind of shapes the work that I'm doing as a Minister. I've been listening to this debate and to thank everyone for their contributions and their insightfulness. There's a few things that interest me, and Julianne Genter was just talking about getting on with it, and now is kind of the moment, and a few others have sort of picked up on that theme. So Tim Grosser, when he was the Minister of Climate Change, used to say, I think I've got it about right because my correspondence is 50% you're going too far and 50% you're not going far enough. I can tell you that I no longer, I shouldn't say no longer, it is now rare for me to receive correspondence from people telling me that climate change is not real and that we're barking mad. And I reckon I sense it in the speeches I give, I sense it in the audiences that I'm with. Just last week, I think it was, or that recess week, I did 2 speeches to large audiences of farmers. I always talk climate change, and one was with my colleague Ian McKelvey. And I can tell you that they don't now debate whether it's real or not. Now, we might debate the different aspects of what's impacting the most, but actually New Zealand's moved on. Our own caucus has moved on, to be quite blunt with you. We have, a number of members that have been here in the last 6 years that think probably differently than some that were here 20 years ago. And I think that's healthy. It's a sign of New Zealand. It's a sign of us seeing, and a topic and just a subject as important as this. So I kind of argue to people that we are already changing, so don't freak out. The climate's changing, but so are we as New Zealanders as to how we live and what we do, and what we need is the mapped out plan for what those changes are going forward. The biggest call that I get from businesses is they've all got opinions, but actually what they say to me is give us the plan and give us some certainty so that they can make some decisions within that. Quite a lot have been approaching me of late and saying that they want to invest literally hundreds of millions of dollars in a new plant and new different ways of doing things. What they need from Parliament is some certainty on some ground rules around the ETS. And I think we've got some challenges there as a Parliament to whether or not we can all kind of agree that it is going to be a foundation. It's entirely up to other parties as to where they move the levers within it. But if we want businesses to be investing literally hundreds of millions of dollars into cleaner plants that are better for the environment, they need certainty, not just in the next 5 years, but actually, as we know, for at least the next 10 or 15. Because to make that kind of investment investment, their boards are not sort of deciding in the next 6 months and it's getting built 6 months later. Those are years-long kind of investments, and I think that that's a challenge for us as to how we kind of address that. I've said many times that we've got a whole lot of pieces of work that are going on at the moment. The one that's probably coming up for us quite quickly is the phase 2 of the ETS, in that we have done the consultation phase and officials are currently working on their advice to myself, and I honestly don't know what that is, because that's their job, is to go through all of the technical nature of it and to work their way through it. But I have to say it will be tackling some big issues, and today I touched on in questions in the House about the cap, so that is on the table for discussions. There is the big question around allocation for businesses after 2020, and certainly a lot of them are really asking big questions around that. There is also questions around units and auctioning and what that means. So these are really significant and big subjects that we have to work our way through, and fairly soon, as I say. I'm not sure. I think that is one that we need to make sure that we're looking at in the right sort of space of time. In the other work that's going on, I reckon there's some other areas that we can agree on, and the one that's pretty obvious and that stands out in the Vivid report is planting more trees. And talking about, we can have the big arguments about land use, and I'm sure we will, and we should continue to. And they're not unhealthy. They're not unhealthy for our farming sector. They're not unhealthy for our foresters. They're not unhealthy for us as a country. We make no bones about it that we support farmers and how they do it. And actually, there's no point in cutting them off at the knees here in New Zealand, because the world still needs what they produce, and there are more inefficient farmers in other parts of the world would then pick up that slack, and actually the world would be worse off from an emissions profile. So we should be backing our New Zealand farmers and looking more, I think, at how we get more consistency of sustainable and efficient farming across the agricultural sector, because there's still pockets that could pick up and take some better practice. But when it comes to what those next steps are and how we map out that longer term plan, yes, I've got to focus on 2030. You would expect me to. Without actually looking at that and getting that right, then we've got huge expenses. But looking forward to 2050 is something I think that this Parliament should continue to tackle. Happy Easter, everyone, and take care out there on the roads.
Members, this debate has concluded. And members, the House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. on Tuesday, the 2nd of May 2017. Have an enjoyable and safe adjournment period.